Hi everybody, this is Megan Garza with Megan Garza Wellness. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner, health coach, and yoga instructor, and you're listening to the Restoring Balance podcast. More women than ever are now dealing with digestive, hormonal, and skin issues and are not finding satisfactory answers or results. On this show, I teach you how to implement holistic lifestyle, dietary, and mindset strategies to help you get smooth digestion and balanced hormones to reclaim your health, feel confident about your decisions, and to finally live life on your terms. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 27, and the title of today's episode is Managing SSRI and Prescription Withdrawal Symptoms, plus Overcoming Anxiety and Depression Naturally. Before we get into today's episode, if you're a fan of the show, this is just a reminder of how you can support the podcast by giving it a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcast, which helps my show get to other listeners who would benefit from it just like you. Also, if you want to learn more about how to improve your digestion for better bowel movements and reduce your gas, bloating, food sensitivities, and constipation, I have a free webinar on the foundations of digestive health that's full of practical information that utilizes nutrition, lifestyle, and mindset strategies as a root cause approach. So, if you want to optimize your digestive health, be sure to check it out. I'll link it below in the show notes. Without further ado, let's dive in. Before I get into how I managed my SSRI withdrawal symptoms and how I overcame my anxiety and depression naturally, I just want to say that I am so sorry if you are going through this right now, if you're experiencing withdrawal symptoms from stopping prescription medications, or if you have experienced that and you're wanting to get off of them still, but are kind of afraid or are very afraid. I just want to say that I'm very sorry and my heart goes out to you. I have a lot of sympathy and empathy for you for what you are dealing with, because this is not an easy route and what you are doing takes a tremendous amount of courage. So I just wanted to put that out there first and let you know that you are supported through this journey. For this episode, I'm not really going to be going into my story. The last podcast episode, episode 26, was all about that. Make sure that you check that out if you haven't, because that gives context to what I'm speaking on. I will also link that in the description for you to easily find. But just a quick synopsis is that I was medicated from age 4 to 17. I was given ADHD stimulants and sleeping pills at 4. And then when I was 12, it kind of spiraled from there, going to antidepressants and birth control pills and more stimulants and antibiotic use for acne, which led to a whole host of health problems. So by the time that I was 17 years old, I was on 7 different pills, and I stopped taking the meds about 9 years ago. I had a lot of health issues at the time when I was 17, 18, even in my 20s, because of the pills and the problems that they caused. So things like depression, anxiety, gastrointestinal dysfunction like gas, bloating, poorly digesting my food, food sensitivities, and abdominal pain, just to name a few symptoms of the gastrointestinal issues. Also, a lot of menstrual problems like PMS, cramping, irregular periods, and even painful cystic acne were just some of the symptoms that I was having from the health issues. My body was really just giving me signs, and it was communicating with me that things were not quite right, to say the least, and it was giving me signals to tell me to pay more attention and to take better care of my body. This is the way that I really like to look at it, rather than just my body was broken and there was nothing I could do about it, because I know better and I know that my body was just giving me signs to say, hey, look at here, there's something wrong. And I took that very seriously, and I've been able to overcome a tremendous amount of these health problems that I used to deal with. So that's pretty much the synopsis of what the last episode was about. Of course, it's very surface level and there really weren't a whole lot of details, which, it's fine for the purpose of this episode. But like I said, if you do want to listen to the full story, definitely give that a listen, because I detail so many other things that you are probably dealing with coming off of medication. And as far as withdrawal symptoms go, I do want to preface this episode by saying that I really did not know much about withdrawal symptoms. I came off of these medications cold turkey, so I don't have any advice specifically for tapering. However, applying these principles that I'm going to be talking about is going to address the root causes of anxiety and depression, therefore making the transition to come off of these medications a lot easier because your body is going to be properly supported. And with that said, please do not come off of these medications cold turkey. It is extremely dangerous. There are so many side effects that can come from them. It can even be deadly. This is just something that I personally felt like I had to do, but it is very dangerous. And I do want to just put that out there and let you know that tapering and following your doctor's advice, if they give you any, is going to be the most ideal scenario for this situation of getting off of SSRIs. The pills that I stopped taking were 2 stimulants, 1 daily antibiotic, and 3 antidepressants. So one day I just stopped taking all of it because I had previously attempted to taper under a doctor's guidance multiple times, and I always failed at it. The depression and the anxiety and everything just got so much worse when I would taper. So eventually one day I just said, screw it, I'm going to figure this out on my own. And again, I'm not recommending that you do this. This is not medical advice. Go follow the advice of your doctor. And that's just my quick disclaimer right there, because what I did really was super dangerous, but I was just over the entire medical system telling me what to do and how to live. And if you're like me, you'll probably find that unfortunately most doctors really do not know much about tapering from SSRIs and just how dangerous it is to taper off of them and just how nearly impossible it is to taper off of this kind of stuff. But if you have found a good doctor, please follow their advice and just do everything that you can to really minimize the withdrawal symptoms, because these symptoms are brutal. So with that out of the way, I am going to jump right into some of the major things that help me overcome my anxiety and depression and to really just find normalcy, but also explain the root causes of anxiety and depression, because it is so much more than just a chemical imbalance of the brain, and there's really so much more going on in the body that needs to be looked at, which is what I'm going to be addressing right now. So first and foremost, I do just want to reiterate that I was really focusing on understanding that the symptoms that I was experiencing were really just reactions to coming off of these major drugs. It was my body's way of telling me that it was trying to rewire neurons and to be able to just find some kind of normalcy despite having so many pills in my system for so long. So really working with the body rather than just thinking it's an enemy and thinking that things have gone wrong, because it's really just reacting the way that it is supposed to react according to what has been done to it and what you're trying to accomplish. Because once again, these medications are major medications and it is not easy to come off of them. The first major aspect of helping my depression and anxiety naturally was to focus on gut health. Gut health is a major contributor to mental health disorders, and you see this with so many mentally ill people today, and I always just wonder, where is that dysfunction coming from in their body? And a lot of times my brain goes to the aspect of gut health just because of how much research there is on these topics of the gut-brain connection. Focusing on gut health was one of the major factors that really did help me be able to overcome my anxiety and depression, and I noticed them really quiet down significantly when I started to actually focus on gut health. So really just focusing on function like stomach acid production, making sure that your liver is producing enough bile, that your gallbladder is healthy enough to contract and to squeeze that bile through, making sure that it's not sludgy. Also making sure that you have enough pancreatic enzyme production and that your gut microbiome is in good standing. And when you're working on your gut health, you really want to make sure that if you have any food intolerances, that you are avoiding them, because food intolerances increase systemic inflammation and just chronic inflammation in the body, which is going to do further damage to your gut and just your nervous system as a whole. So while you're reducing food sensitivities and eliminating these things temporarily, it is imperative to simultaneously work on improving gut function so that way you will better be able to tolerate these foods again. Because the whole goal here is to be able to eat as many foods as possible without any reaction. So I'm not talking about some kind of crazy restrictive diet. That is not what I preach. I think as many foods that you can tolerate should 100% be eaten. I'm not going to dive too deep into digestive health because I could go on for a very long time, but I do have an entire webinar on digestive health that I highly suggest that you check out if you are dealing with anxiety and depression and gut health issues. And even if you don't think that you have gut health issues, I can pretty much guarantee you that there is some kind of dysfunction that is underlying that is not showing up as typical gut health symptoms. So then again, that could be depression and anxiety. So check that webinar out. It is chock full of so many good tidbits and so much information that is going to help you understand how the digestive system works. And so that way you can better manage your digestive health and really take control over it. I'll put that in the show notes. The next aspect of managing your depression and anxiety better would be to decrease chronic neuro and systemic inflammation. And everything that I'm going to be talking about in this podcast episode is going to directly impact reducing inflammation in the body and in the brain. So everything from an anti-inflammatory diet to exercise to improving gut health to improving your sleep. This is kind of the byproduct of all the points that I'm going to be speaking on to reduce this inflammation. So it's nothing like super specific in this point that I'm touching on, but as I continue down the list of things that helped me, you will see the pieces fall into place. But just understanding that brain inflammation and systemic inflammation are huge drivers for anxiety and depression. Another thing that is really helpful for reducing anxiety and depression is to reduce and eliminate your environmental toxin exposure. So I'm not only talking about like car exhaust and living next to a freeway, I'm also talking about everyday items like household cleaners, conventional health and beauty products, toxic cookware like Teflon and aluminum. If you have mold exposure, if you are being exposed to pesticides and herbicides on the food that you're eating, even conventional CAFO meats have a lot of toxins in them. Even things like PFAS exposure. So these are chemicals that are found in things like firefighting foam and even couches and pizza boxes and so on and so forth. But really reducing this load of environmental toxins is going to mitigate the stress that your body is under. If you are really confused about what I'm talking about, I have an entire podcast episode talking about environmental toxins and where they lurk and how you can avoid them. So if you want to learn more about this and you've never heard about it, I'm going to put that in the show notes for you to listen to. I'm just trying to really create a comprehensive guide for you guys to dig into to be able to learn more about what I'm talking about and not having to just try to search for things on my website and in my podcast. So it's all just going to be right there in the show notes for you to dig into. The next step that you would want to do would be to improve your detox pathways so that way you are better able to detox heavy metals and other toxins. And when I say the next step, these are not listed in any particular order. It's not like you have to do this and that and then this step. It's kind of just a comprehensive list of everything that I've thought of. So when I say next, I'm not talking about doing this in a specific order. So the liver and gallbladder, they both play a huge role in being able to detox heavy metals and other toxins. And this is because the bile that the liver produces and the gallbladder squeezes out is really helpful for binding to fat-soluble toxins to eliminate them via stool. The liver is also just extremely important for detoxing stuff in general, which is why making sure that your liver health is going to be in good standing is going to make an astronomical difference here in how you feel overall. Because if these heavy metals and other toxins are trapped in your body, they're going to be stored in these places and just wreak havoc on your cells. The 6 major organs of elimination and detox are the lymph, liver, skin, colon, kidneys, and lungs. I have an entire episode on how to make sure that these pathways are operating efficiently in episode 21. Again, that'll be in the show notes. But just a quick synopsis here. So the lymph You can improve the lymph by movement and dry brushing. So exercising, moving around, making sure that you are not sitting still for long periods of time, especially if you are sitting all day, making sure that you're getting up every 30 to 40 to 60 minutes and just moving your body as much as possible. Then you have the skin. So sweating and using non-toxic products on your skin is going to make a big difference here. Sweat is going to eliminate toxins that are found in your body. And also when I say non-toxic products, your skin absorbs whatever you put on it. So if you're putting chemicals on your skin, it's going to be absorbing right into it. Then you have the liver. So things like coffee enemas are really helpful, castor oil packs, bitter herbs, and especially nutrient supporting your liver with foods. So omnivorous, minimally processed diet is going to be the best way to support your liver. Making sure that you are also drinking filtered water is going to make a big difference. Then you have your colon. So making sure that you are going to the bathroom every day. You need to be pooping every day. The poop needs to be solid and it needs to feel like you are having a complete bowel movement. If you are not pooping every day, then you are constipated. A way to help with this is to increase fiber and to increase vagus nerve stimulation. Some people don't do well with extra fiber. Sometimes that'll make people more constipated. So increasing your healthy fats or even decreasing your fiber. So it really is bio-individual. That's why I can't say specifically like eat this amount of fiber every day because not everyone is going to be okay with that. Not everyone's body is going to benefit from eating a tremendous amount of fiber. So it really is bio-individual, but some people need more fiber, some people need less, depending on where they are in their gut healing journey. If you are really in a severe state of chronic illness with your digestive tract, you might need less fiber or no fiber temporarily. But overall, the rule of thumb is to increase your fiber to help improve and diversify the microflora in your gut. So I know that one's a little confusing. It's kind of contradictory there, but like I said, it is bio-individual. Everything about health is bio-individual. What works for someone might not work for another person. So I did just want to put that out there. Then as far as the kidneys go, you need to make sure that you are drinking filtered water. So do not drink tap water. I did an entire episode on why tap water is so bad for you. There's so many chemicals from fluoride and PFAS and prescription drugs found in tap water, even heavy metals from the pipes. So it's really making sure that you are having a high quality water filter that is compatible with the contaminants that you need to be filtering out. Also, bitter herbs can be beneficial for your kidneys to help stimulate health. And then lastly, the lungs. So most importantly, you want to be taking deep breaths throughout the entire day. When you are taking deep breaths, make sure that you are breathing in clean, filtered air and you are not using toxic household products in your home because you are just going to be inundating your body with more and more toxins. So a couple options to clean your home with non-toxic cleaners would be things like vinegar, Castile soap, baking soda, or just other non-toxic products. You can look it up on the ewg.org to be able to find if a product has a good rating. So no bleach, Windex, or other harsh chemicals like Fabuloso or Pine Sol or any of the list of things that, you typically think of for cleaning. Another cause for depression and anxiety would be living in a toxic environment or just being around toxic friends or family or coworkers or bosses or whatever the case might be. Getting out of this toxic environment is going to be a huge win for how you feel because how you feel and how your body is reacting to these situations is going to set the tone for how your anxiety and depression are. So even if you're doing everything else and you're checking all the boxes, if you are stuck in a toxic environment, you are not going to be healing. So you need to be around people who uplift you and to make you feel good about yourself. And one thing that really helped me was just telling people to mind their own business when I was getting off of these pills and just really let me do what I needed to do to heal because there were a lot of naysayers who did not believe that I could live without pills. So this was something that was like a huge conditioning that I personally had to break through as well. Maybe you have to because you've been on the pills for a long time and you feel like, well, this is just how my body is. I can't live without them. And it's really just breaking through this matrix that we have been conditioned to live in. That is so difficult, but it is so necessary. Balancing my hormones was also something that really needed to be done to be able to get my anxiety and depression under check. Sex hormone imbalances can cause a whole host of health problems and symptoms, and anxiety and depression is one of those. So a way to do this to balance your hormones is to make sure that you are eating enough. So you are not under eating, you're making sure that you're eating the proper foods and you're not restricting. No fasting, because that can interfere with hormone balancing. Making sure that you're warm, because if your hands and feet are cold, that can be a sign of a thyroid imbalance. Also, balancing your blood sugar is going to be really helpful for hormone balancing. Avoiding polyunsaturated fats, so foods that are high in that would be like canola oil, cottonseed oil, grapeseed oil, and just all other industrial seed oils. They're super bad for your body. Prioritizing sleep is a really big thing for hormone balance. And then also hydrating with electrolytes. Another thing to mention is that I was still on birth control immediately after I stopped taking these SSRIs and stimulants. But a year after, I did stop taking the birth control. And initially after that, things got really bad because I just personally did not know what to do. I did not know how to support my body when I was coming off of birth control. But I did notice that my moods slowly but surely did continue to get better once I stopped taking birth control pills. So that is something to consider and to keep in mind. The next aspects of helping my anxiety and depression naturally were sleep, stress, and movement. And just because I'm lumping these three things into kind of one category, that does not mean that they are less important or that one is more important, because they are all vital to helping your body manage the stressors and the anxieties and the depression that you are feeling. Sleep, I cannot stress how important this is. This is the time when your body has the ability to regenerate cells and to heal and to reduce inflammation in your brain and your body. So sleep cannot be overlooked. It is not something that is optional. This is something that is required. So anywhere from 7 to 9 hours a night is really going to do your body wonders. Also, with stress management, there are so many techniques to help with stress management, from mindfulness to meditation to yoga, deep breathing, going for a walk, having sex, playing with your dog. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to help with stress, but something that should not be overlooked is food, because food is going to help support stress management by nurturing your adrenals. So the adrenal cocktails that you might have heard of, a simple way to help with this, help with adrenal function, would be putting some sea salt on some fruit. And this is a really simple and cheap, easy way to nurture your adrenals, to make sure that they are not getting burned out, they're not producing too much cortisol, and it just nurtures them by providing them nutrients to be able to function properly. And then also with movement, this is something that, again, I cannot stress enough. Movement is critical. There's the new saying that sitting is the new smoking, because of how detrimental it is to your health. So making sure that you're getting out and you are exercising, and it doesn't have to be HIIT workouts. A lot of times HIIT workouts and high intensity workouts in general are going to make your anxiety worse because of how much stress that can put your body under. So even light movements like gardening or walking or some light cardio or weightlifting, these can all be really excellent forms of movement, especially compound movement. Like certain weightlifting techniques are so beneficial to helping you build muscle mass, and also just improving your confidence by moving and just getting out there and doing stuff. And if you've had anxiety and depression, or one or the other, for long enough, I'm sure you know how bad you feel when you just lay in bed all day. So even if you're just forcing yourself to get out of the house and go walk in the sunshine, it's going to improve your mood significantly. So just really trying to get out there and move and just do the best of your ability right now is going to make a big difference. And next, I have sunshine. Making sure that you are getting enough sunshine is critical to helping with so many things in your body, from your circadian rhythm to your vitamin D levels to improving your moods, because low vitamin D levels are often a root cause of depression. But you also need to remember that vitamin D absorption does have many other cofactors, like it requires cholesterol and vitamin K and magnesium and so many other things in order to be absorbed by your body, which is why just supplementing with one mineral or vitamin typically is not recommended. And that's why you need to know what other cofactors are required in order for your body to absorb this vitamin D and even synthesize it. So if you're not getting enough cholesterol and fatty acids in your diet, that's why you go outside and you burn and you turn into a lobster, because your body needs that cholesterol in order to synthesize the vitamin D. You need to have a healthy liver for that, and so on and so forth. But what I'm getting at is going outside is going to regulate your circadian rhythm. It's going to give you vitamin D. Even if you are just out there for 5 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes midday, and then 5 more minutes in the evening, that is a fantastic start, because you are priming your brain for, this is the time to wake up. Here's full sunshine. It is shining on my face. It's telling me to be the most alert right now in the middle of the day. And then in the evening, you watch the sun. And that's priming your brain to produce more melatonin to help you be able to sleep even better. And a wonderful byproduct of all of this is that it is going to improve your immune function. So everything that I've talked about, from the sleep, stress, movement, hormone balancing, and everything in between, is going to improve your immune function. And low immune function is another root cause of depression and anxiety. Another factor that really helped me that I adopted pretty early on and improved as time went on, eating a nutrient-dense, properly prepared, minimally processed diet. So this includes avoiding fillers and additives and preservatives in foods, also avoiding seed oils, as I talked about earlier when I spoke about hormone imbalance, and also avoiding excess pesticide and herbicides sprayed on your food. Ideally, you're going to want to stick to nutrient-dense, easy-to-digest foods. So really just keeping it simple when you eat, like a carb, a fat, and a protein all together. So an example of this would be rice that has been properly prepared with butter and beef, and sauerkraut on the side as a bitter food to help stimulate digestion. I'm not going to go into this too much. If you want to learn more about nutrient-dense, minimally processed foods and what you should be eating for gut health, check out the webinar that I mentioned before about gut health, because I go into greater detail about nutrient-dense foods to be eating to support gut health. And then kind of piggybacking off of this, you're going to want to really address nutrient deficiencies. So all prescription medications deplete certain nutrients in the body, which can lead to symptoms like depression and anxiety that you are experiencing. So for example, with birth control pills, these deplete B vitamins, vitamin C, magnesium, vitamin D, zinc, and these are necessary for fertility and healthy menstruation. Birth control also disrupts the gut microbiome, and if you remember from earlier in this episode when I said that a healthy gut microbiome is essential for mood regulation and reducing depression, this is why it's important to understand what medications that you are taking do what to the body. And also just a side note here about birth control pills is that they are labeled as a group 1 carcinogen. Now on to antibiotics. If you've been on antibiotics long term, or if you've taken multiple rounds of them, or even if you've just taken a couple of antibiotics, it's very important to know that they do destroy the gut microbiome, which is responsible for so many processes in the body. Again, like I said, mood regulation and the onset or exacerbation of depression. So avoiding antibiotics whenever possible, or if you have to take them, making sure that you are supporting your gut by eating fermented foods, taking probiotics if probiotics agree with you, and just really avoiding them whenever possible. And that's really the best advice that I can say, because for every little ailment, you do not need antibiotics. I think they should be used as a life-saving intervention rather than just prescribed carelessly by doctors. And lastly, just briefly touching on nutrient deficiencies with SSRIs. Some SSRIs deplete CoQ10, vitamin D conversion, and also B vitamins. So if you're going to be taking these things, really understanding what nutrients that they're going to be depleting is vital for keeping your body healthy. There was a book that I found online many years ago for my late grandmother. She wanted to know what medications that she was taking would deplete certain nutrients, and it was all about the drug-nutrient interactions, and it was very fascinating. I think the book was was around $80 used, so it was very expensive, but I mean, it was a very good book, and I remember looking at it with her, and it was very comprehensive. So if I can find that, I will put it in the show notes for you to look at if you are considering staying on antidepressants or if you are having a very hard time coming off of them, because it'll help you understand more of the nuances of what nutrients are being depleted and what you can do about it. So after you get off all these medications, you are going to have nutrient deficiencies, which is why it's very important to either get your blood tested or get some kind of test for nutrient deficiencies specifically to see what you are lacking in, and then either work with a practitioner who can help you address these nutrient deficiencies with supplementation, or really pounding down nutrient-dense foods to help you boost these levels. Trauma work is also something that is imperative. It is a non-negotiable for helping with SSRI withdrawal. It's helpful for overcoming anxiety and depression naturally. There are so many different ways to do this through talk therapy, through EMDR. If you have something like CPTSD or PTSD, it's very helpful. Even things like breath work. I took a yoga teacher training, and that was the most incredible experience I ever had, because I was never taught how to handle situations that were even slightly stressful without panicking and just becoming very anxious. So learning how to kind of master my mind, which I say with quotations because there's really no such thing, but being able to have a better grip on my stressors and my reactions to situations proved to be immensely helpful. So if you have underlying trauma and it is just sitting there and it's festering, you cannot ignore it. You are not going to improve. Your depression and anxiety are going to continue to get worse, or they're just not going to get better at all. So making sure that you are putting in the work to address your trauma, because this is what is going to lead to incredible transformations. Also, I did want to note that there is a growing body of research on the positive impacts that magic mushrooms, or otherwise known as psilocybin, it's been proven to be very helpful for managing depression and anxiety, and also just addressing trauma. So depending on what the laws are in your state and following those laws, you can see if you can work with a practitioner or a shaman to be able to prescribe these to you, to be able to kind of go deeper beneath the surface level that we are operating at. So if you have wanted to take psilocybin for a while and it is something that is legal where you live, give that a shot, because it has been proven to be very helpful for a lot of people who are dealing with these kinds of issues. And lastly, mindset work was something that did take a lot of the stress and anxieties away from me, because it allowed me to be in a better state of mind of not constantly worrying about the future or thinking about the past, and just ultimately being grateful for what I have and just trying to be positive about what life threw at me. So when things went wrong, the mindset work and just the mindfulness in general helped me to not catastrophize as much as I used to, because that was something that was extremely hard for me to overcome. And I'm not saying that I never catastrophize, but when things go wrong, my brain does not immediately go to the worst case scenario anymore, which has been so helpful for helping mitigate that stress and that anxiety that I was experiencing when these things happened. And then some things that I did years down, it's a long time after the withdrawal symptoms were gone, because the withdrawal symptoms ultimately lasted about 2 years. But these are some of the things that I did when the depression really was not an issue for me anymore, but they were just taken for extra measures and they made me even happier. So blood sugar regulation was something that really helped my mood stabilize a lot more. Again, I did not know about this until years later, but this is very important for balancing your hormones as well. Another thing that I did was I moved somewhere that I truly loved. So I'm a huge nature lover, and I moved into nature, and it has been just an incredible journey to be able to wake up and to hear the birds chirping and to smell the fresh air. So I know not everyone likes the countryside and likes all the bugs and the snakes that come with it, but just finding a place that you enjoy to live and just moving there, because it is going to make a big difference in how you feel overall. Another thing that I did was I got 2 dogs. So this is highly bio-individual. Some people want children, some people want dogs, some people want cats, some people don't want any of that. But just really figuring out what you want in life with that aspect. Maybe you want to get married or even just find a partner, and just working towards that goal and to just figure out how to make it work. And I know that's easier said than done, but most of the time, just a little pointer, it's not going to be done online. So get out there in the real world, try to meet some people, and just be open to the possibilities without that deep level of attachment. And lastly, something that I think is extremely important is just living in tune with the natural cycles of life and slowing down. So more just living life how you're supposed to, tracking your menstrual cycles, eating more in season, waking and rising with the sun if that's an option, and just living life in a slower pace is what's going to help calm your nervous system down. And that's pretty much everything that I did to help me manage my SSRI withdrawal symptoms and to overcome my anxiety and depression naturally. And I felt like this episode was really important to put out there because there are so many causes for depression and anxiety that are not talked about because Big Pharma wants to keep people sick and stuck on medication so they can make more money. So this is really just my way of sharing with you and letting you know that there are better ways to manage depression and anxiety rather than just taking a pill, which does not address the root cause. So hopefully hearing my story of success of being off of these medications for over 9 years is really inspiring to you, to let you know that it is possible and you do not have to be stuck with these pills for life. And also, the mainstream narrative about depression is very outdated and it lacks scientific merit. So all the things that I talked about in this episode are the true causes of depression and anxiety, and I can almost guarantee you that you are not going to hear a regular doctor talk about this kind of stuff. But just knowing that anxiety and depression and all these things, like, they're very complex, but understanding that there is always a root cause to explain the symptoms that you are having. So if you are in the depths of this journey of transitioning off of SSRIs, or maybe you are off of them and you're feeling very lost and confused and upset, just know that you're not alone in what you are going through, and to just stick with your convictions because your gut feeling is right. And that's really everything that I have to talk about in this episode. I hope that it was helpful. And if you enjoyed it, please be sure to share it with your friends and family and to leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify podcast. So just remember to take it step by step and to keep learning on your wonderful journey of wellness. Well, that's all the time that we have for. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. Today I talked about SSRI withdrawal help, what I did, and the true causes of anxiety and depression. You can expect new episodes every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just a quick reminder again of how you can support the podcast and stay in the loop. You can sign up for my newsletter. That way you can be notified every time I post a new podcast episode, make any new announcements about my services and how you can work with me, and also receive weekly relevant tips for digestion and hormones so you can optimize your health. You can find the link to sign up for my newsletter in the show notes, or head to my website at megangarzawellness.com, and you can wait for the pop-up or sign up under the freebies tab. Again, I just want to thank you so much for listening to this week's topic. Take care, everyone, and until next time.